The room was cold, silent, and deep underground. Thick walls of black steel surrounded the alien like a tomb, and even though no chains held him, he felt more trapped than ever before. A single chair, a single table, and 2 human guards behind a glass wall watched without blinking. The alien's skin was cracked and blistered, some of it still smoldering with the scent of old plasma burns. His uniform had been stripped, his body scanned, and now he sat in plain rags, breathing slowly, like each breath cost him something. The only sound was the hum of lights overhead, steady, mechanical, almost too steady, as if trying to hide something far more human and dangerous underneath. Then the door opened with a hiss, and she entered. Human, tall, worn. Her armor was black and scarred. One eye was cybernetic, the other was colder than ice. She didn't introduce herself. She just tossed a datapad onto the table and sat across from him. "Start talking," she said. "Tell me how you survived Dead Point." The alien's hands twitched. "Not from fear, but from memory. You sent us there," he whispered. "You wanted us to see it, to feel it." She didn't flinch. "You wanted to know how long you'd last." The answer was 2 hours. The alien closed his eyes, but the images came anyway, his squad screaming in the dark, hallucinations pulling their minds apart, fire in places where there should have been water, and that sound, that terrible sound, boots, always boots, walking, stomping, echoing through corridors with no one in sight. "They never stopped walking," the alien said softly, "even when there was no one left to walk." The woman leaned in, her voice like stone. "Did you see them? The firewalkers?" The alien's eyes opened wide. "You knew they were real. We made them real," she replied. "And you walked into their home." The alien leaned back, trembling slightly. "You humans. You don't build front lines. You build nightmares." The woman gave a bitter smile. "War's only a nightmare if you try to wake up from it. We decided long ago we're not waking up." Silence returned for a moment as the alien looked at the walls, then the cameras, then back at the woman. "How many other species have you done this to?" She shook her head. "None, just yours. You're the only ones dumb enough to test us with ground war." The alien looked down at his hands. "My unit was elite, psych-trained, void-disciplined. No fear, no pain. That's what we believed." Then we entered Dead Point. The memory cut deep. Their drop pods had landed at night, in the ruins of what used to be a human supply city. No heat signatures, no movement. Everything looked dead. But it wasn't. It was watching, waiting. Our scanners said empty. The humans had pulled out. We thought it was abandoned. His voice cracked. It wasn't empty. It was full of echoes. Full of them. The woman didn't move. Just listened. Like she had heard 100 stories like his before, and maybe she had. It started with a radio. The alien continued. One of our soldiers, Mara, picked up chatter. Human voices. Laughter. Crying. But the source was inside our own helmets. Then the lights went out, and we saw things, human soldiers walking through walls. Burning, but still walking. Whispering code phrases in English. The alien's body shivered, and we fired on them. The shots went through. They kept walking. The woman nodded. Dead Point remembers every soldier that dies there, especially the ones we leave behind. Sometimes they come back. You're insane, the alien snapped. Use the dead as weapons. No, she replied calmly. We remember them. And the trench listens to memory better than any machine. He slammed his hand on the table, his fear now boiling into frustration. That base, it was alive. It breathed. It watched. It turned our own minds against us. She leaned forward, her voice low and sharp. It didn't turn you, it tested you, and you failed. The alien's eyes burned. We didn't fail. We were lied to. No one told us what we were walking into, because you wouldn't have walked in if we had. Her words hit like a hammer. That place wasn't built to be taken. It was built to remind us. He shook his head. Remind you of what? She stood slowly. What it cost us to become what we are. Every step in that trench was bought in blood. Every scream etched into steel. We left it behind because we had to. But the trench, it never let go. The alien slumped forward, exhausted. Why did you let me live? She paused at the door. Because something in the trench chose you. He looked up, confused. Chose me? You're marked now? Not by us, by them. You walked with them. You followed their boots, and they let you leave. She opened the door. No one else did. The alien blinked. What happens to me now? She looked over her shoulder, her voice dry. Now, you get to tell your people what hell looks like when it marches in human boots. As she left, the lights dimmed, and the door sealed with a heavy hiss. Alone again, the aliens stared at the walls. They weren't still anymore. Tiny scratches appeared just for a moment, like someone was writing, in English. 5 words, etched faintly into the black steel. We march, we burn, we return. The alien's voice trembled as he continued his story inside the cold human bunker. The lights above, still humming like a slow countdown. His hand stayed flat on the table as if moving too quickly might wake something buried in the steel. We're dropped into Sector 9 of Dead Point during Midnight Cycle, he said, eyes unfocused, already lost in the memory. Our orders were simple. Recon. Disable signal jammers. Secure the facility. We expected resistance. We were trained for chaos. But not for this. Not for what was waiting. He blinked slowly. The first 20 minutes were quiet. Quiet. No bodies. No signs of life. But no signs of death either. Just emptiness and the boots. His fingers tapped the table softly, mimicking the sound. Thump. Thump. Slow. Steady. Like someone pacing just out of view, we thought. It was our audio gear malfunctioning. The rhythm wouldn't stop. Like someone was walking in circles above us. But the facility was empty. We searched every floor. The readings said no movement. No heat. Still. We heard them. Footsteps. Heavy, dragging, steel soles on steel floors. He paused to drink water, but it did nothing to wet the dryness in his throat. One of our scouts, Raylon, saw the first image. A man, human, burned from head to toe, wearing old Earth combat gear, just standing at the end of a hallway.
Ow.
No weapon, no movement, just standing. Rallon froze. Then the lights flickered. Just for a second, when they came back. The hallway was empty, but Rallon's rifle had melted. The human officer listening didn't interrupt. She was used to these stories by now. We split into 2 teams after that. Standard protocol. I led Team Black, the other Team Gray. Moved toward the central generator. His breathing slowed. That's when the radio started lying. She leaned forward. Lying. He nodded. We heard Gray Team's voices, clear, calm, saying they were at the objective. But Gray Team was already dead. He shuddered. We didn't know it yet. The trench doesn't tell you with blood. It tells you with familiarity, with comfort. It speaks like your friends, walks like your squad. But it's none of them. It's the trench speaking through their memories. The officer showed no emotion. Did you try to extract? The alien laughed, but there was no humor in it. We tried. That was the worst part. The exit wasn't blocked. It was gone, like it had never been there. Our dropship beacon vanished. Coordinates shifted. Every door we opened led back into the same corridor, no matter how far we ran. He leaned forward, whispering now. The walls moved, I swear. We started marking them with acid chalk. Every mark came back erased. Human nodded slowly. Dead Point adapts. It was our last active psychic warfare site before the treaty burn. We sealed it, buried it, but some places. She looked into his eyes, refused to stay quiet. The alien slammed his hand down. You left that place alive. Built it like a weapon. What kind of species builds a battlefield that thinks? Her voice was cold. One that lost everything and wanted to make sure no one forgot. The trench isn't a location. It's a reminder. He looked away. You don't just fight enemies. You fight memories. Make them bleed. The officer didn't disagree. Continued slower now. Our team tried to rest. We found an old control room. I thought it was safe. That was when we found the file. The officer raised an eyebrow. What file? The alien hesitated. A black tablet still working.
Dented.
but active human tech. We opened it. It played a recording, over and over. "What kind of recording?" she asked. "A diary," he said softly. "From a soldier named Torres. He talked about the original fall of Dead Point, how his squad got cut off, how they held the line, how one by one they died. But every time one died, the others would take their boots and pass them on. They called it the Dead Point Protocol. You don't leave behind boots. You don't leave behind memory. You carry it." Ah, he trembled. Again, Torres said something else. Said the trench knows who walks with it, and who walks away, and those who leave don't stay gone for long. The human's fingers tapped slowly on the table. Torres. He wasn't supposed to be remembered. The alien's eyes widened. "You knew him?" She didn't reply, just looked at him with the sadness of a soldier who knew too much. Stood now, pacing slowly. My squad started, breaking. Mira tried to dig her way out, dug into the wall with her bare claws. Said she saw daylight. We followed, but when we got to the hole, there was no wall, no tunnel, just a boot. One human boot, standing upright, still warm as if someone had just stepped out of it. He stared at his own feet. We found more. Single boots, always standing upright, always pointing toward us. And when we picked one up, we'd hear them again. The voices, the fire. The officer asked softly, "When did your team start dying?" He answered with a bitter smile. After we picked up the boots, he turned toward her. "But we didn't die like soldiers. We died like stories." I watched my lieutenant vanish mid-sentence, like a page being erased. No blood, just gone. And when we shouted his name, we heard it shouted back from every wall in perfect English. He sat again, his voice lower than ever. "I was the last one. Because I was strong. Because I stopped fighting. I started walking. In rhythm, in silence, like them. Like your soldiers, in the trench. Let me live." The room fell still. He reached under the table and slowly pulled something from his belt pouch. A scrap of fabric, burned, black. Folded, he placed it gently on the table and slid it toward her. She opened it, and inside was a single metal name tag. Torres DPO1. She froze. Not blinking, not breathing. He watched her reaction carefully. That file, that diary. It wasn't just history. It was a beacon. That man, your Torres. He's still down there. Still walking. Still teaching. Every footstep we heard was his voice saying, "Remember me." She stood, without a word, and tapped the wall. The guards didn't come, but the lights dimmed. The room changed color. She turned back. "This stays off the records. If you speak of it again, the trench may come for you even out here. Already has. It already has." And on. The steel floor beneath his chair, invisible under normal light, faintly glowed the words, "I never left." The alien's mind was haunted by the memory of those endless footsteps echoing through the silent corridors of Dead Point. But what came next was far worse. After surviving the maze of shifting walls and disappearing exits, he found himself trapped. In a narrow passage, filled with smoke and ash, the air thick and burning his lungs. Then he saw them figures at the edge of his vision, barely visible through the haze. They moved slowly, deliberately, their faces scorched and expressionless, their eyes empty, but burning with a strange light. They were human soldiers, or what was left of them, but they did not behave like living beings. They didn't speak, they didn't fight, simply walked. Footstep after footstep, their boots thudding in slow, heavy rhythm against the metal floor. They were the ghost unit's warriors declared dead, but still wandering the trenches, driven by something no one outside the human ranks understood. The alien tried to hide, but the ghost units passed close enough for him to feel the heat of their burned bodies and the coldness of their hollow gaze. They whispered in broken English, phrases repeated like a chant. Left foot, fire, right foot, pain. The alien's heart hammered. He realized these soldiers weren't just survivors, they were prisoners of the war itself, trapped between life and death, memory, and oblivion. Some of them lifted empty hands and touched him, and when they did, a flood of memories surged into his mind. Battles long past. Screams swallowed by silence, the smell of burning flesh and blood-soaked mud. He staggered, but forced himself to walk with them, mimicking their slow steps and whispered words. Only by moving with their rhythm did the alien find he could pass through the smoke and reach a hidden chamber, where real humans wounded. But alive waited. They stared at him with a mix of fear and respect. One of them, a human named Bex, explained the truth. The ghost units were not ghosts or undead. They were veterans broken so deeply by war that they no longer responded to commands or logic. Instead, they moved only to the beat of memory, driven by loyalty to fallen comrades and the ritual of the trench. The alien was given a strange gift, a cracked knife, passed from a ghost unit, who spoke only one word before disappearing: remember. From that moment, the alien understood the war was not just fought with weapons, but with memories sharpened into blades. The trench was alive because it held every story, every scream, every step of every soldier who had ever fought there. It could choose who survived based on who could walk with it, who could carry the pain without breaking. As he rested among the living, the alien looked down at his feet and saw the faint outline of Boots's boots. But they were not his anymore. They belonged to the trench now, to the memory of soldiers who would never truly die. The ghost units faded back into the smoke, their footsteps echoing as they disappeared. But the alien knew he was marked. Forever. Part of something no one else could understand. The trench had chosen him, and he had to walk with them. No matter what came next, the alien was led from the smoky trenches to a hidden command center deep inside the human war zone, where he met the Firewalker's legendary veterans, whose eyes held the weight of endless battles and whose bodies bore scars no healing could erase. Unlike the ghost units who wandered without purpose, the Firewalkers were still soldiers, hardened and relentless, but something had changed them. They moved with a strange calm, faces unreadable, voices low and steady, but their presence filled the air with a kind of cold power that unsettled the alien. His escort introduced him to Commander Lyra, a woman whose face was half covered with burn scars, and whose right arm had been replaced by a sleek cybernetic limb. She didn't smile. She barely acknowledged his existence at first. "Hey, you walked." "The trench," she said simply. "That means you carry its mark." The alien nodded, feeling the weight of her words like a physical burden. They showed him videos, blurred recordings of human soldiers walking unarmed through firestorms, explosions shredding the air around them, bullets tearing through their flesh. Still, they advanced without fear or hesitation, their boots stamping a rhythm that seemed to command the chaos itself. "Why?" the alien asked, voice cracking. Lyra's cold eyes met his. "Because we don't fear death anymore. We fear forgetting. Every step we take honors those who fell before us. We become the memory. We become the fire." The alien watched as a Firewalker slowly peeled back the sleeve of his charred jacket, revealing a tattoo, a series of numbers, names, and dates etched in black ink over burnt skin. "These are the scars we wear," Lyra said. "They remind us of pain, loss, and survival. Without them, we are nothing." The alien's own scars itched in response. Then came the real test. He was taken on a patrol with the Firewalkers through a zone thick with enemy traps and unstable terrain. As they moved, he noticed the silence was more terrifying than any gunfire. Every step was calculated, every breath measured. When an explosion erupted nearby, the Firewalkers didn't flinch. Instead, they closed ranks and pushed forward, their footsteps never breaking the steady cadence. In that moment, the alien understood what kept them alive was not armor or weapons, but the unbreakable bond forged by shared suffering and memory. They were not just soldiers. They were walking legacies of a war that consumed everything. That night, alone in a dim room, the alien grasped the meaning of the trench. It was not just a battlefield. It was a crucible that transformed pain into power, memory into weapon, and men into something more terrifying than death itself. And he knew that to survive, he had to embrace the Firewalker's code, to become part of the endless march, to walk with the boots and never stop. The alien had walked with the firewalkers, felt their cold strength and endless rhythm, but nothing prepared him for what came next, the true test of the human warfront's brutal heart, where blood wasn't just spilled, but echoed through time, like a haunting drumbeat. As dawn broke over the shattered wasteland, the trenches around Dead Point came alive with a dreadful energy. The enemy launched a fierce counterattack, unleashing acid drones that melted through steel and flesh alike, turning the battlefield into a hellish sea of fire and corrosion. The alien watched in horror as human soldiers didn't retreat, but charged into the burning storm. Boots pounding the ground with a steady, defiant rhythm. Round him the air shimmered with heat and smoke, but the soldiers moved like ghosts, walking through flame as if they were fire itself. One of them, a young man named Harkin, fell beside the alien, his face twisted in pain but a grin playing on his lips. "It's okay," he said through cracked lips. "I left my boots ready." The alien realized this was more than a joke, it was a ritual, a promise to those who might follow. As Harkin took his last breath, the alien heard the chorus re-isolde. Battle songs sung low, carried on the wind a haunting melody that bound the living and the dead. The trench didn't just hold bodies, it held souls, memories soaked into every brick and scarred wall. The alien felt the weight of every step, every scream that had ever echoed here. When enemy forces pushed forward again, the humans did not fight with guns alone. They fought with stories told in whispers and song, in the sharp cut of a blade passed between brothers. The alien watched as soldiers passed their worn knives and tattered boots from one to another, carrying the memories of those who had fallen. It was a weapon sharper than any plasma rifle. The alien realized the true power of the human warfront wasn't technology or numbers. It was the unbreakable chain of memory and loyalty. The soldiers did not fight for victory. They fought to honor the dead, to carry them forward step by step into a future no one else could claim. As the sun set behind the ruined skyline, the alien stood among the living, feeling the fire burn not just around him, but inside. He was no longer just a visitor to this war. He was a part of it now, marked by the blood echo that would follow him wherever he went. The alien had thought he understood the trench, the unending march of boots and the weight of memory, but nothing prepared him for the night of the burn line, a moment when the very earth became a furnace, and the line between life and death melted away like ash in the wind. The enemy launched a new horror, acid drones, flying machines that sprayed burning chemicals that ate through metal, flesh, and even the memories stored in neural implants. The battlefield was chaos incarnate, a living nightmare where nothing was safe. Trenches collapsed, walls dissolved, and screams were swallowed by the hiss of corrosive fire. But the humans did not flee. They held the line with something no machine could break: their boots. One by one, soldiers stepped into the acid storms, unarmed, unafraid. They walked through the burning rain, their bodies blistered and bleeding, but their pace never faltered. The alien watched in disbelief as men and women embraced the fire, not as enemies, but as old friends. The footsteps echoed like thunder, a drumbeat of defiance against oblivion. The alien tried to aid the wounded, dragging them to safety, but every time he turned his back, the firewalkers charged back into the flames. "We don't run," one whispered in broken English. "We stand in the fire. We are the fire." As the trench began to crumble under the weight of the acid and endless assaults, the alien felt the presence of the lost soldiers, the ghost units walking silently among the living. They moved through the smoke, unburned, untouched by pain, their boots pounding an endless rhythm that no enemy could silence. The alien realized the truth that the humans knew but never spoke aloud. The trench was not just a place, but a living thing, fed by blood, memory, and the souls of those who refused to die. It was a fire that burned without consuming, a fire that walked. As dawn broke over the ruin, the enemy forces retreated, not from bullets or bombs, but from the silence that fell when the boots stopped. The alien looked down at his own feet and saw his boots worn, scorched, but still marching forward. He understood now that the war was not just fought with weapons, but with the stubborn, unyielding will to survive and remember. The burn line was not the end. It was a beginning. A promise that no matter what burned, no matter what was lost, humanity's march would never stop. The alien's journey through the endless horrors of the human warfront was far from over when he was suddenly summoned back to the Galactic Council, the place where decisions were made, secrets kept, and destinies shaped. He stepped through the cold corridors of the council chambers, feeling the weight of countless eyes watching him, some filled with curiosity, others with suspicion. The leaders were a mix of species, all gathered around a massive holotable projecting maps of war zones and shifting alliances. His report was awaited, but he knew they were not prepared for the truth he carried, a truth forged in fire, blood and footsteps echoing through abandoned trenches. The counselors' faces were unreadable as he began to speak, recounting the nightmare of Dead Point, the ghost units, the firewalkers, and the burn line. He told them of the boots that never stopped walking, of memories that fought harder than weapons, and of a war that was not just about territory, but about survival of spirit. As he spoke, some counselors shifted uncomfortably. The aliens saw doubt, fear, even denial. One elder counselor, a tall silver-skinned diplomat named Valrex, interrupted with cold logic. "Your story is disturbing, but it sounds like myth. A psychological weapon the humans use to scare their enemies." The alien shook his head. "I saw it with my own eyes. The trench is alive. The soldiers carry memories like armor. They're not just fighting humans. They are fighting their own ghosts." Another counselor, younger and more sympathetic, whispered, "What are we to do? Can we contain this war front, or will it consume us all?" The alien looked at the hollow map, showing the shifting battle lines and the empty space where Dead Point once was. "The humans have created a weapon we do not understand, a war that feeds on memory, pain, and relentless will. If we dismiss it, we risk being next." Suddenly, alarms blared across the chamber. A warning flashed on the holotable. Unauthorized transmissions detected near galactic borders. The alien's blood ran cold. The trench was expanding, its echo reaching farther than anyone had imagined. The council was forced to face the reality. The warfront's nightmare had begun to spread beyond its borders, threatening all who dared to listen. The alien stood tall, knowing his role had changed. No longer was he a survivor telling a tale. He was now the voice warning the galaxy about a war that could never be truly won, only endured. As the chamber descended into chaos, he realized that the boots would keep marching. The fire would keep burning, and the echo of blood and memory would never fade. The question was simple: who would survive the endless march? The alien stood alone on the edge of the ruined battlefield, the cold wind carrying the distant echoes of boots pounding against scorched metal. The trench had not only consumed bodies and memories, but had changed the very nature of war itself. The last transmission from the Galactic Council had been clear. No one could stop the march. No one could silence the fire. As the alien looked down at his worn boots, the weight of countless souls pressed down on him. He was no longer just an outsider. He was part of the endless march, marked by the blood and memory of 1,000 battles. Behind him, shadows moved, ghosts, and firewalkers, living and dead, marching in perfect rhythm. They were no longer enemies or allies, but something beyond, a force born of pain, survival, and unyielding will. The alien raised his voice to the sky, speaking words that echoed through the empty wasteland. "We walk because we remember, fight because we refuse to forget. The trench is not just a battlefield, it is a legacy. And as long as we carry its boots, its fire, and its blood, we will never stop marching." The stars above flickered, as if listening, as if the universe itself acknowledged the power of the human spirit, fragile but fierce, broken but unbroken. The alien took a final step forward, joining the endless line of boots that stretched into the horizon. The march would continue, the fire would burn on, and the echo of blood would never fade. This was not the end. It was the last march and the first step toward a future forged in fire, memory, and the relentless heartbeat of war.